Universal Studios is converting one of their highlight attractions from 3D to 2D. Are they just trying to cut costs? Are they cheaping out in order to save funds for Epic Universe? Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, where we cover streaming, theme parks, video games, and more. I'm here today with Mr. Vash Sky. Vash, we got a little bit to talk about here with what Universal Studios is up to. Are you ready for that?
Oh, I think I'm ready for this King Kong-sized story right here.
King Kong ain't got nothing on you, Vash. I need your help here because I think this conversation is a little bit bigger. We're gonna start at Skull Island, and then we're gonna branch out from there. Breaking: Skull Island, The Reign of Kong removes 3D glasses from Islands of Adventure. This by Annie Wilson over at Universal Parks News Today, which I believe is a division of WDWNT. Skull Island Reign of Kong has gotten a major update and is no longer in 3D. The attraction, located at Universal Islands of Adventure, has been a 3D attraction since it opened in 2016. Now the film portions of the attraction have become 2D and no longer require 3D glasses, like the version used on the tram tour at Universal Studios Hollywood. And there's some additional information about the ride itself. You can see here's a picture of 3D glasses bins that don't have 3D glasses in them. And there are those 3D glasses. I've worn them. They're a little uncomfortable, but who cares?
I will say I've worn those.
Who cares that they're uncomfortable? Obviously, ride downgrades are a different issue.
No, I do agree. Look, I'm not overly thrilled about this cost-cutting measure. I think Universal is seeing within its data on guest tracking and so forth that they're going to have a little bit of a slowdown or a softness for attendance at the Universal parks, only because people might forego their vacations to see Epic Universe as it premieres next year. So as they advertise more for it, you might get a little bit of a response from that. I get it. I understand what they're doing. I get the operations mindset of it, but it's just not. It's never good to see a theme park attraction downgrade in this way. I will say though, having ridden this attraction myself personally with 3D, I would forego the 3D myself only because those 3D glasses, you had them on the screen right there, they are terrible. They move around, especially if you're wearing them alongside glasses like you see before you right now. Yeah. They're awful. They're some of the worst 3D glasses I've ever had on me. So, hey, if I can get a better look at that amazing ape audio-animatronic at the end there.
I got to go to Islands of Adventure not that long ago, and I had not seen because Kong Skull Island was down. Skull Island, The Reign of Kong, inspired by Moana, was down at the time that I went. So this most recent trip, I got to go. I loved the Kongfrontation animatronic, and I loved watching. Giant animatronics are the pinnacle of the art form, in my opinion. I actually don't like humanoid animatronics because they're kind of unsettling to me. Even cartoon character humanoid animatronics, I'm not there for that. Ursula, awesome. King Kong, both forms of them, awesome. And it was amazing to watch that thing. I like to imagine that thing is actually looking at me. And there are moments where you can lose yourself in the illusion of what's going on there.
The Kongfrontation animatronic was really, really cool. This was a kind of a fully fleshed out one, and on this kind of scissors lift attraction that gave them all sorts of problems, and they had power issues and all kinds of stuff. But it was adapted from the original attraction, which was in itself a pull through as part of the Universal Studios tour in Universal Studios Hollywood, and that animatronic figure was designed by Bob Gurr, interestingly enough, on a really cool kind of pivot system. Really awesome stuff. Technical time.
So Bob Gurr, which is of course also a Disney Imagineering legend, and he was the one who designed the monorails back in the day. Also, I believe that was it trigonometry that he had to learn in order to do the Matterhorn?
For the Matterhorn, yeah, because that was the first tubular steel roller coaster designed in association with air development there, and it was a big task to do that. And unfortunately, even Bob Gurr admits this. In a modern roller coaster, you have these kind of heartline rolls, and unfortunately, that really wasn't, they didn't really think about that at the time. So people complain about how jerky it is and how rough it is, and they say, oh man, when are they going to replace the track? The track doesn't necessarily have everything to do with it. It's how that track is designed that really is at issue there.
But let's talk about let's talk about Bob Gurr's history here at Universal. So, are you
Yes.
saying now? I have never been out to Universal Studios Hollywood. I've been to Hollywood Studios Florida, which
Yeah.
is of course a Disney park, and I've been to several times to Universal Studios Florida, and of course Islands of Adventure. Are I the tram tour? It sounds like is a more complete experience than what we're getting as different attractions over here on the East Coast.
Yes. So this is very interesting in Universal's history. When the theme park first developed, it was developed really around the studio tour, which had existed since 1964, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this year it's celebrating its 60th anniversary. We'll get back to that in a moment. But as part of the original studio tour, tram tour, I believe the original trams were made by Harper Goff, and you had this series of tram vehicles that would take you through the backlots of the active studio lot that was the Universal lot. So you could see, productions. Sometimes in mid-production, sometimes you'll see stars and stuff like that on the sides of the tour. It's amazing to kind of see the operation of a working, functioning studio. That's kind of what sets it apart from these other studio parks. They actually make movies there. So it's a really, really cool thing. And well, as part of this studio tour, they have these what they call pull-throughs, which are these experiences that the entire tram is surrounded in and things happen around you. You'll hear about Earthquake, for example, is like this. King Kong with that Bob Gurr audio-animatronic that we were talking about before, that would later get adapted. Both those, actually, interestingly enough, would be adapted for day one attractions for Universal Studios Florida when it opened in 1990 there. So you had the Earthquake attraction by itself, standalone. That would be later adapted to Fast and Furious. We'll get into that in a moment. But
Oh my,
yeah. But then King Kong, that was made into Confrontation. And then when there was a really bad backlot fire that happened a number of years ago that burnt down those amazing backlot sets and so forth. This is cinema history essentially, and a lot of those were destroyed. Fortunately, the Court of Miracles, or whatever they call it now, the courtyard where Back to the Future was filmed, that was preserved, but everything else was destroyed around it. That includes the Kong pull-through right there. So they developed this new kind of 3D film with Peter Jackson, and it kind of surrounds the tram. They adapted that for the attraction that we see before you in Kong Skull Island, there at Islands of Adventure. So they're all adapted from these tram pull-throughs, including Fast and Furious.
You still got it wrong. It's Skull Island, the Reign of Kong.
Sorry,
Inspired
Skull
by
Island, Reign of Kong. Yeah, exactly. Inspired by Moana. I forget those little tags right there.
Yeah.
But this Kong attraction has had some issues in the past. Fairly recently, I guess for like the last year, the outdoor portion of this attraction, where these automatically driven vehicles, very interesting technology, used to go outside for a little bit and then pull in through these big double doors with these flames on the sides. It was awesome. Apparently, they've been foregoing that and just going straight into the show scenes, and that's had a lot of people upset for a little while here.
I was
now,
completely unaware of that, by the way, when I went, and so this is fascinating because when we were talking about this earlier, I had the feeling that the Fast and Furious attraction was not a complete experience over there at Universal Studios Florida.
No.
It is literally one of the worst theme park attractions, and especially for such a popular IP. I don't understand why Universal Studios is even tolerating this in their park at the moment. But
even the creator said it was one of the worst things that he had ever worked on, and that he regretted building it. Like you said, it was adapted from this pull-through experience from the studio tour at Hollywood, literally almost scene for scene, vehicle for vehicle, for this pull-through experience made into an attraction for Fast and Furious, and it did not work at all.
So, and that being said, it's kind of inappropriate for a theme park as well. A theme park that has a lot of kids in it. They don't tell you going in that the girls are going to be dressed like it's club life or whatever. But if you watch the Fast and Furious films, you probably are seeing worse. That being said, looking at this, I knew that the ride vehicle was pretty much the same for Skull Island. So just how many rides at Universal Studios Florida are just things that you see when you are on the backlot tour or the tram tour at Universal
Oh,
Studios Hollywood?
interesting you say that because you have the earthquake scene that used to exist at Universal Studios Florida. Jaws, interestingly enough, was adapted from one of those pull-throughs at Universal Studios Hollywood. Still plays today. Not nearly as impressive as the attraction, but you do get a little time with Jaws and Amity Island and so forth. That's pretty cool. You have Kongs. That's what, 3? Fast and Furious. It's 4, and I would add in as well the wreckage scene from War of the Worlds. Really cool fact there.
Yeah, they don't. They definitely don't have that at Universal Studios Florida.
They do not. For the filming of that movie, Steven Spielberg had their crew purchase, and disassemble a 747, and that's the scene that Tom Cruise comes about when after that horrific night in that movie, you see that destroyed 747. Well, that scene in its entirety has been preserved, and that's what you kind of pull through along with the Bates Motel and so forth out there cool. In Universal Studios Hollywood. Really cool. So it's shifted around a lot, but about 5 or 6 or something like that. Is a lot of these have been translated to attractions in Universal Studios Florida.
So to return this a little bit to the topic at hand
Please.
Here. So this 3D to 2D conversion, it is cheaper, and they're just using the same ride footage that they have from the Hollywood version in Islands of Adventure.
You got to think you have to purchase these glasses, right? You have to clean them, you have to restock them, as we actually learned about that process with as it relates to Pandora Flight of Passage. Apparently there were some talks and negotiations about maybe necessarily taking 3D away from that film for the same reasons, right? For cost and for the glasses and so forth. You also had people collect them, people wash them and all that. But in that case, it was like, no, this is integral to this experience. There's no way you can take this off. And I do agree. In this particular instance, well, maybe this doesn't necessarily need 3D.
Yeah, they've kind of proven from the concept that they are able to do this without 3D.
Right. Interestingly enough, Universal's had a history of this. For example, when the Wizarding World of Harry Potter attraction was adapted for Hollywood, I believe 2015, 2016 is when the Hollywood version opens. The Wizarding World main e-ticket attraction, the Forbidden Journey, it originally started without 3D, but then it was when it opened at Universal Studios Hollywood, it actually had 3D added onto it, which didn't work out at all. A lot of people got sick. A lot of people got nauseous because for that Kuka arm-based attraction, it's just so intense for that attraction to have 3D added onto it. So they actually removed it, and that conversion to 3D never took place at Universal Studios Florida. But
that also kind of happened with Minions, correct? They went from, I believe it was Minions 3D Blast, and now it's just Minions Blast or something like that. When I went on that ride, it was not 3D, even though they were set up for it. I also, I had a very small person with me, so she didn't want to go in the motion section there. So we sat in the front while the bigger kids and my wife sat in the part of the theater that actually moves. Also looks like that was the original ride system there for the Hanna-Barbera ride that was back in the day.
Yes, and then what is it? It was Jimmy Neutron before then, or after the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and then Despicable Me. So, they keep reusing these things. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that same reusage out of something like Kong.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I can't remember if Fast and the Furious is in 3D or not. I don't think it is.
Yeah, so the studio tour is interesting because they actually hand you 3D classes before you even board, and then you just have them for those segments that do encounter.
Even though the Kong part is not in 3D?
Well, the Kong part, interesting enough, in the studio tour is 3D. Now this Kong Skull Island Reign of Kong attraction in
inspired by
Florida. Yeah, inspired by one in Islands of Adventure is not. So you have these concurring things happening. But I think in that instance, it's like, okay, well, this is a 45-minute experience, this tram tour. We just have to hand out these glasses, once and not have two separate teams for each of those individual films right there. So I believe everything is still in 3D at the studio tour, whereas, yeah, they've been adjusting these things as they are separate attractions in Universal Studios Florida.
Yeah, this is all fascinating to me because I went to Hollywood Studios Studios back when it was MGM, in the early days of the park, and we went on this ride, which I was assuming was going to be a 20-minute ride, and an hour and a half later, or something ridiculous like that, we get done with the studio backlot tour, and then they're like, oh no, we're also going into this other thing where somebody flew on a bee, and they had all kinds of amazing special effects that you could experience the magic of making a film. So this makes more sense to me why Disney would do a long form experience back in the late 90s there for MGM Studios. I think it was called Disaster Canyon. Was that the name of the park?
Oh,
the name of the attraction?
Catastrophe Canyon.
Catastrophe Canyon. That's right. It had to be alliterative. But that being said, the thing that I want to talk about here as we start to wrap up this conversation is this something that Universal Studios is trending towards? Do you think that they'll be doing away with 3D glasses? Because there was a rumor that I saw on Twitter. This is one that I'm not putting a lot of stock in, but I want to use it as a basis point for this conversation. Do you think they're pulling away from 3D?
I think so. It's the 3D stuff. I mean, look, James Cameron can have success with it, but not everybody else can, right? And it's just, I think the fad is, it's kind of waning a little bit, and I think that's what we're experiencing here in these theme parks. We're seeing Universal go much more physical with their attractions, much more immersive, much more interactive, and maybe 3D doesn't necessarily play a component in that to the degree that it did in years prior. I can say, look, if they were to do away with 3D and Gringotts, I would be a very happy camper, although there are some issues with that because the 3D kind of, unlike James Cameron's Flight of Passage, where your peripheral vision really does make it provides a large portion of that experience.
Right.
The less peripheral vision that you have on something like Gringotts, better. So I guess we'll see that ebb and flow, but I think they are getting away from it.
Yeah. Now I don't know if they have an active campaign here in order to do this. And the person that I'm going to ask next, I would like to talk to our good friend Ethan, theme park wizard, who is part of Theme Park Universe over there. And of course, you all need to go check out the conversations that they're having over there on Theme Park Universe. They're about an hour and a half a piece, and as much as I like to do deep dives on this channel, Vash and Ethan do a fantastic job over there, are really going deep on Universal Studios especially. And I do see that they're making a new Fast and the Furious coaster over there at Universal Studios Hollywood. That is going to be it sounds like it's going to be next level. And it won't involve screens, as far as I can tell.
No, we don't think so. There should be some show scenes, but the media has not necessarily been revealed for those things. But I can tell you right now, we're going to go over that in Theme Park Universe, not only the Hollywood Drift, but also Donkey Kong, because apparently there's been I don't know, a YouTube network that has come up with some amazing POV 3D shots that are very, very particularly interesting.
Well,
so
that sounds awesome.
We're going to be going into that on the next Theme Park Universe.
Personally, the thing I'm hoping for the Fast and Furious Drift Coaster is a King Kong-sized Vin Diesel animatronic. But a guy can dream, can he? Of course, we want to know, what are your thoughts on this? Do you like 3D on these attractions? That sounds like that's an engagement comment, but I'm genuinely interested. I actually hate 3D on these rides. I wish they would get rid of it because it's just an extra burden for me while I'm trying to watch kids, to have these cumbersome glasses on top of my glasses. As you can see, I am wearing glasses. I don't like it, but I can understand why people would like it. I think it would be less expensive for the parks themselves, and there are some attractions that need it. So if they got rid of it tomorrow, would you like it? Would you think they need to bring it back? Let us know in the comment section down below. Of course, like this video if you like this video. Share it out if you know someone who is interested in this little bit of history, especially if they haven't been out to Universal Studios Hollywood. I had no idea until Vash filled me in just how extensive that tram tour is. Maybe I'll get to see it someday. And of course, consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.